Welcome back to the Layman Seminary. We're continuing our charting of salvation through various books. Right now, we're in the Gospel of John. Somebody brought up the issue of abiding in the vine in John 15, where it talks about the branches being burned. And so, I want to talk a little bit about John 15. Okay. Hopefully, y'all could see these categories. If not, you can watch a previous video wherever it has them. I'll try to refer to them. Okay, as you can see, I have John 15 in several different categories because there's several different possibilities mentioned here. Let me tell you my view, and then I can explain why there's some difficulties, why some people have some difficulties with this passage. John 15 is Jesus says, "I am the true vine," and he talks about the branches and not abiding in him or remaining in him or continuing with him. And he says that the branch, one that does not abide with him, is thrown forth as a branch fit to be burned. That whole idea there, I'm paraphrasing. But the key, I think, and we're not going into the purpose of the Gospel of John or whether his original audience was saved or not. I'm just dealing with the issue of the immediate disciples, their salvation, because I believe John 15 is immediately tied to this section. In John 13, this is where Jesus washes the disciples' feet. In 13:11, Judas is already going to betray uh, uh, Jesus, and it says that he's not clean, even though Jesus physically washed them. He says they're not all clean, and so you have a distinction going on in the passage. He says, when concerning Peter, said he that had been bathed need only to have his feet washed, and so you have this idea of cleansing here. A bath is a once for all event, whereas a feet washing is a continuous event. And the whole concept behind this is fellowship, it's discipleship, it's accountability, these types of ideas associated with this. Well, Judas leaves the room. So when we get to John 15, Judas is not in the picture. It's possible John 15 refers to Judas as not abiding in the vine. That's not my position, but that is a situation. And if that's the case, Judas was never saved in the first place. And the reason I say that is because he's called the son of perdition, which is the same title for the Antichrist. And I can give you other verses if you have a question about Judas's salvation. Which, and let me make it clear, I do not believe that Judas was saved. So in that situation, it's not a loss of salvation, it's what's happening to an unbeliever. But I don't think the issue of salvation is primarily in the context. Rather, what I see, that this is fellowship, this is depending on Christ and trusting in him. So I see it as an experience category that's associated with that. Now, there's different ways to take the fire and the burning. Basically, it could refer to loss of rewards. It could refer to physical death. It could refer to the fact that the emphasis is not on the fire, but the fact that it's useless, based on the Old Testament imagery of vine wood. What it's not used to build anything; it's just useful for throwing it in the fire. So it may not be reference to hell or anything like that. So again, we're dealing with an allegory, which means we have to be careful with interpretation of it. An allegory is different than a parable because an allegory explains itself at certain points, and the parts that are not explained, defined, is when Jesus said, "I am the vine." No doubt, we know what that's talking about. My Father is the vine groom, the vine dresser. We know who that's talking about, and we know the disciples are the branches. But all the other stuff that's associated with it, we cannot necessarily be dogmatic about it. So what I'm saying is that John 13, in light of the washing of the feet and the leaving of Judas, this is associated with fellowship, trusting in him, remaining in him. In John 15, he talks about, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you may bear fruit. So he's mainly talking about his disciples who he's preparing to establish the church, basically, to be the ones that are going to be entrusted with the scripture. So this is the concept behind John 15, and we can always go in more detail about this. But in fact, I already have videos on John 15 and on the Gospel of John as far as inductive study and things like that, but we can always go deeper. So let me know what y'all think. If you got any questions, let us know. And basically, if you need share this with others, hit the bell if you want notifications, and thumbs up or whatever you need to do. But most of all, please keep this ministry in prayer. God bless.